Greetings, everyone. Welcome to officehours.global. This particular show is called Extra Hours because it's at night and it seemed like it was extra. And so, extra, get your news here. That wasn't why it was called that. But what we have done is we have assembled people from around the globe, really actually just me and then America is really what's happened tonight. The idea is that we will chat about all things kind of media technology related, media production, those sorts of things. And so we have a bunch of people that are watching along. In Makana is our Q&A system and chat system. If you'd like to join that, then you could go to officehours.global/join and you'll get some emails and you'll jump through some hoops and you'll get in there. We'd love to have you there. So let me introduce quickly the panel that we have assembled. Starting off first is our CEO of Office Hours, Guy Cochran, up in Seattle, Washington. Hello, Guy. Come in, Seattle.
Sporting my Black Magic shirt from NAB 2015. See, on the sleeve there. What's funny is I gave these out the night before, and then they were like, you can't say anything about that camera. And I'm like, I'm wearing the shirt, but it had the new Ursa mini back at the time. I just noticed that I'm wearing the shirt that's, 11 years old. I guess it's vintage.
Yeah, I think you probably... out of embargo now, you're able to talk about it. I think you'll be all right.
Those are used on eBay pretty heavily now.
You'll be safe. I was going to say a stone's throw. It's a big stone's throw, but down in Spokane, Washington is Zach Jeffers. Hello, Zach.
Howdy. Was just over near Guy yesterday with my teenage boys having a guys trip, and didn't get a chance to say hi to Guy, but maybe next time I can fly over and say hi to Guy and have all the rhymes.
That'd be cool.
Have all the rhymes. He could do some beats. Very good. Down in Hollywood, California is Courtney Gooden. Hello, Courtney.
Hello, Grant. How are you? The only representative from, the Southern Hemisphere for us tonight,
That's right.
We used to be called Extra Hours, but now we're kind of called Only Hours on Mondays.
Only Hours. Well, soon we'll be able to do open all hours, and we could be our own little TV show. Is it all? Has Hollywood cleaned up as best as it does clean up now after the?
They have that message, last one out, shut the door, turn out the lights, the Klieg lights, because they've all gone to Georgia and New Orleans and other states around the country.
Moving into a hotter part of the country, we get to near Phoenix, right? Or in Phoenix, Justin? Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, just a few miles outside of Phoenix, Arizona. And
Nice.
Speaking of embargo, Guy's out of embargo, and I'm in embargo. I just spent a week up at Microsoft last week, getting to see all kinds of cool AI and tech that sometime this year they'll actually announce, and then I can actually talk about it again with people. But it was very cool to see some of the stuff that's coming.
Did you just put your big toe on the embargo line by talking about that? Is that what just happened?
That's as far as our NDAs allow us to go.
Well, fair enough. You can say that you went there.
Yep.
You heard some things.
Heard some things, some very cool things. And they'll probably announce them at Build in June and throughout the year for what they actually got to show us behind the scenes.
Nice. Well, it's good to have you here, not able to talk about those things. That's great.
Yeah, but we got lots of other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, very good. In Texas, Peter Sargent. Hello, Peter.
Good evening, Grant. Or good afternoon for you, I think, is the right answer.
Oh, well, not quite. 11:30 a.m.
11:30
as we speak.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I, too, have recently signed an NDA, but it's for something that I doubt that anybody on this panel would give a damn about.
Okay.
So it's back
now
to
we're all curious.
back to those days of I spent time working on high-end mainframe design. Things that IBM still sells, by the way.
Wow.
And lots of them.
There you go. Okay. Well, I'll ask no questions about that. Very good. To complete the panel, over in New York City is David Brady.
Yes, sir. How are you, Grant? And I will say good day, because I think that just covers it all. You don't have to say good morning, good evening.
Yeah, that's right. That does cover it well. Yeah. How's New York at the moment?
New York's good. It's the last week has been weather-wise a roller coaster of March going out like a lion. It's been cold one day, warm the next, and today we hit 70 Fahrenheit, so it was good.
I think we're getting a similar thing here, and it's just offset. Kind of like we're getting hot. It's a hot day today, and then it's going to be cold again. So I don't know. If we didn't have weather, what would we talk about? We could talk about oil shortages. That's an interesting thing, particularly for us down here. Sometimes I think the world forgets about us. It's like maybe we can send a ship down there with some oil for those people down under. It's like, but if we need it, Australia's getting none. So it actually is. It's going to be interesting in the next few months. As to what happens there, because we also, these things don't make sense, but we also don't have a lot of storage. Like we don't have a lot of emergency supply of our energy usage. So anyway, the point is, and how this relates to media technology and things, is that I am wondering whether there might be more of a need for some virtual events happening a bit more, because what's fascinating for me is I've actually got a big event in May. In May, in Auckland, in New Zealand, and so there comes a little bit of sort of virtue signaling, around whether it's appropriate to, when there's shortage of avgas and things, that is it appropriate to, even for a business, a good business reasons and for conferences and things and for people to get together, is it a good thing to be using all of that, and is there an alternative way? And so that's what we're going to be. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks around that, and whether there might be a need to, like, I know some countries are already doing, there's a European country that's doing a public holiday every Wednesday. So they're basically like a bank holiday sort of idea every Wednesday, and so that people just all stay home on Wednesdays. Sounds pretty good to me.
Don't you guys run on koala oil or something down there?
That's right.
They comb the fur really carefully and extract the koala.
Yeah, kangaroo oil we can use. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But interesting for me is thinking about 6 years ago or whatever, how it is that we started this thing. Actually, we're coming up. Oh, did we just miss the anniversary? Did we do anything about that, Guy? Oh, I see. A new sheriff's in town, and now we just don't even worry about anniversaries anymore. That's old hat. Is that right?
The next anniversary is going to be when Guy took over as CEO. That's the next anniversary.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That'll be the year. So it's just gone over 6 years, right? So 6 years every day, and we've been meeting. But my point is that part of the reason that office hours really began was because everyone was in lockdown, and I feel like there was two prominent reasons. One was that we were everyone's kind of home anyway. How about we hang out and chat production? But also it was, hey, what are we doing with sort of virtual events, or how is media production, evolving and happening during COVID, during the lockdown, and what were the things that, I think about some of those things that we looked into. Who's that colorist that we had on really early on? Guy
Charles Klein.
Charles Klein. Yeah, it was those moments that was super cool. It was just like, here's into a world that I had nothing, no awareness of, and we kind of got to dive into that really well, And so the interesting thing for me now is I'm not hoping that there's lockdowns or anything like that, but travel restrictions and things like that could be interesting as far as what that does for online events, particularly is what I'm interested in. And Guy, I was thinking about this because, 6 years ago, I started doing Blackmagic stuff at home, Atem, like setting up the home studio, doing a mix all that way. If I had to do multiples, we'd sort of work out that way. I mean, I'm really just like, why wouldn't I be using Cloudflex, and just spinning up stuff and just making that work now? Because if everyone's remote, then mix it in the cloud. And then if your team can also be remote and we can pull on people from all around the world, is that the way that you would go?
Especially with the price of RAM and whatnot, with it all fluctuating, I'd hate to go buy some really expensive computers right now and then have the price of them just go down really fast, especially with all the big fancy GPUs and whatnot. If you don't need it, if you could do it in the cloud, it's the whole backhaul thing. Like, how do you get the signals up there? And then is that the best move? Because I still see some events where it's best to just leave the mixer on site, do all the remoting in from afar just into the machine, and then controlling the machine so the big video files never go up. Things will get pushed there. But why not? Why make it hard on yourself if you don't have to? But from a pure money standpoint, I mean, look at what Jeff Keithley's doing. He'll still haul a big old huge TriCaster in a it's like a, what does he call it? It's like a crate. It's like a half a semi trailer.
Yeah, a container.
He ships it.
Yeah,
a container.
Yeah,
and it's full. Like, I mean, it's got servers in it and Dante stuff. Oh my, all the cables. And in fact, when it lands, he still has to get another container that's just to empty out the container that's shipped. So they put all the cables and everything in one, and then they pull it all out. Yeah, and so you could get in and out and whatnot. But yeah, it's still very much boots on the ground. But with the release of Zoom ISO V3 today, the beta version, I'm excited about some of the things that we've done in the past, where we were sending teleprompter, especially with the 60p and the better resolution. The multi-views can be a little bit finer. So if you are doing, color correction, if you're doing stuff with replay, things like that, you could start to imagine 4 in and 12 out. That's kind of appealing. I know David Brady's been doing a lot with custom AV. I don't know if you got a chance to bang on it. Or
the custom AV, not so much yet. I did get ISO up and running on the one test rig that I have at work. And I'll get some of the CAV machines going tomorrow when I get back. But yeah, it's definitely exciting. And I'm hoping that the Zoom ISO V3 is that tipping point for the reluctant folks at work, to finally see that the tools are there. It's kind of available and viable. Yeah.
What are the key improvements in V3?
V3, the inclusion of scopes, I think, is going to be a huge, some of the bells and whistles that were built upon, I guess, some of the lessons learned here in office hours and after hours community are definitely having them all in one place is a game changer to be able to manipulate it and adjust things. Because even myself, if we were going through Zoom ISO V3, you could probably deepen my blacks and punch up my face a little bit. Punch it up.
You can essentially shade the camera, even though it's not really shading the camera.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the color part of it, because working in real time, like news scenarios, right? Like you're getting guests that are flying in real quick. Yep. They're only giving you 2 seconds before they go live. You don't have time to see if they have, one, an assistant that can adjust their camera, two, if they know how to adjust the camera, if they know what color is, if they know what exposure is, like it just doesn't exist, right? Like this is a huge opportunity for us to have those wins, when they're off camera or in their, a different toolbox comes up, you can go and tweak something real quick or do something real quick. And I think that's a huge win for all of us professionals working with Zoom in our live streams and our live setups. And I can't wait to experiment with that.
Yeah, the other nice thing that cursory, looking at it from installing it and reading through the documentation, the ISO recording pathway is solid. And if I remember correctly, Andy said they do an MXF file format, so it'll honor growing files, so you can edit on the fly while you're recording. Because at my job, one of our groups does they used to be satellite media tours, but now there's Zoom media tours, quick turnover, station hits, over a 3-hour thing, and being able to turn stuff around quick is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Muddy in the chat, hey Muddy, was just he showed the LinkedIn post that Andy sent through, and so redesigned outputs view with grid layout, combining output control with in-app preview of Zoom meeting, Zoom video streams. That's big. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're onboarding guests and doing like the green room and stuff like that, like being able to bring them into hair and makeup and not necessarily have to be in some other, computer to jump into a different meeting to do the different room and, all that stuff. Like it's kind of nice because you can do some hybrid workflows there because you do have those. And then you can also do the overlays, right? Like you can do the alignment overlays and get them centered up and get them, eye lines and all that stuff done all within the app, which is super useful.
There are guys showing.
Yeah, here's that version if you want to do kind of the Fenwick framer. I wish they would have named it Fenwick framer, but they call it person framing.
He would want rights. He would want.
He asks too much.
He would. So here's the tone curve, so you could see that you can tweak these in real time. So if you had a guest that was too bright, you could just go ahead and bring them down a little bit.
So, and the other thing is you can record them separate, right? Like you can send the pre-processed and the post-processed to different records or to different paths. So that's super nice.
Yeah, so you could duplicate that input proc one and keep it clean. The other thing I was wondering too is what does the panel here envision using something like Zoom Room Custom AV in conjunction with this? Do you use Zoom Room to collect people and then just pipe it through this, or I'm just trying to envision the big end-to-end workflow. I guess not.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think you probably. I think about that in terms of different rooms, right? Like as in essentially different breakout rooms or the process. And so, if by doing some of the pre-checks or things like that, it made sense to use custom AV, then great. But there is quite a bit of overlap, isn't there, in functionality, and maybe custom AV. I guess I kind of think of Zoom ISO as kind of in that broadcast type field, whereas custom AV, I think of it in terms of more down the line of custom in the AV world of more like integrators, things that they're tying it into boardrooms and they're doing that sort of stuff. Is the way that I think of it. Universities or those sorts of things that might be using that more, and so there could be some overlap. But it seems to me like you would have well, the way I use it is I have a breakout room, and that becomes my stage, and that's where I have Zoom ISO pulling feeds out, so that you don't have people dropping in and out of the main room. Although you could, there's lots of different ways of doing that.
The way I see it is Zoom ISO is for local or Mac-based productions where custom AV is cloud. In my opinion, like that's how I approach it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, of course, it takes advantage of the enhanced media video transport, so 1080p 60 and increased bit rate, which is nice to have. So the combination of this, having that what is it, $25 upgrade a month to Zoom and to be able to have enhanced video. Incidentally, you can get Zoom ISO with that license as well, right? So yeah,
all the liminal
Yeah,
products.
that was
great.
On as long as it's a paid for Zoom license, you can get it.
Yeah,
it was an interesting discussion in Discord today because I think that that line item of you could do it on the enhanced media package, or you can do it on the hubs package, depending on your workflow and what your needs are. So,
and centralizing the licensing, right? Like bringing it home and making it not complicated. Like if you're a professional, you just pay, you're already paying for the bumped up service. And now you just throw the enhanced license on it and you got all of it, right? Like you're not having to go find this and that in bits and pieces anymore. You can kind of just focus on one path.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that we haven't talked about for enhanced media is the amount of bandwidth total that you get. You go from 30 megs total to 100 megs total. So it means you can have a lot more Zoom ISO outputs at a lot higher quality than we previously could. Yeah.
The in-app recording is something that I really like. The 264 HEVC or ProRes LT. And as you mentioned about the growing files as well that you could have in Resolve or Premiere. But I do like the idea that you could do, sometimes you do these shows and all you want is you just want some ISO recording. And so now to have that you're not necessarily broadcasting out, you just want to capture a conversation, a podcast or something like that. This makes it much easier now to do that.
For those fast turn socials, being able to grab all those. So in this example, I could grab 8 outputs, have 8 and let the social team stack them however they want for vertical or horizontal. So that's pretty neat that would be real time. So if you ingested all these, they would be time code synced all together and you could just keep pulling them and pulling them and pulling the end and it'll just keep growing and growing and growing. So that's a really cool feature with the MXF format.
Though Andy did warn us that says, be prepared. It will generate a lot of data very quickly if you're not careful.
Large files.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Couple of net apps and you'll be good. You'll be good.
And then there's audio outputs routing, and so like individual channels, and then delay on each channel too.
And delay correction.
Yeah,
it does have inline delay
on
each channel.
Correction.
Yeah,
that's nice.
That's a huge win.
Yeah, it is, because inevitably it would be different for each person depending on what their
and just pipelines, right? Like you can have different workflows happening all at the same time. Like it's not just a linear workflow anymore. For us complicated guys, we are always doing one more thing and one more output and one more destination. So being able to adjust for a pipeline is huge.
Yeah. 1F Jeff, Zoom ISO for Mac lovers. Custom.
I heard Jeff was a Mac lover lately, so.
Yeah, well, I wondered. It's funny, we're talking about RAM shortages and stuff before, and we have mentioned about like getting a Mac Mini or whatever is might be a way to get around that a little bit. But I actually have a need to get a Mac Mini, and I can't get one for weeks. I can't find them anywhere. So
even the studios are getting backed up in shortage. So
yeah, right.
I think there's like a 2-week or 3-week wait on them right now or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it was. So so that's interesting too. All right, we actually haven't taken a question yet. So how about we do that as they stack up? Courtney, what have we got first?
All righty then. Let's take a look at the first QR question coming in from Abdallah Adams in Evansville, Indiana. Notice the recordings on Office Hours YouTube channel now have ads. Why is this?
David, what's your take on this?
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show kicked, and I was just curious, Abdul, if you're currently signed into your own YouTube account, and if it's a paid account. Like myself, I use YouTube Premium only because I dislike all the ads myself. But I'm not sure what else has changed on the back end as to how they're inserting those. But I'm hoping it's only on the replays and not the live stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, totally is. Yeah, listen, it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are costs involved in office hours actually happening, and so there's some hard costs. There's incredible volunteers that all volunteer their time, which is really amazing. But there are some hard costs as well, and so we wouldn't put ads on the live stream because particularly the way we answer some questions, you could likely miss the whole answer to a question if we had ads running on live stream. But on replay, I mean that there's if you think of it in this way, you're probably not paying anything towards office hours. You let an ad run through, it's a few cents that gets kicked our way. That was going to be going into YouTube's pocket anyway, right? So I'm the same, David. I've got YouTube Premium, and so the way that works, and I think, Guy, you can break down, right? You can break down the premium subscribers, and there's a little kick that you get when a premium subscriber watches your content.
Yeah, I don't know the whole dynamics of it, but I got asked last night how much are we up to, and in a week we made $20. So I mean, every bit helps. I mean, our bead counter accountants will be happy because we do pay about $350 a month for accounting. So we don't have, that'd be a lame one to put it on a volunteer. Like, hey, you want to do our accounting for us? And we need official stuff since, we do need to dot our I's and cross our T's. But we spend about $1,500 a month. And for the first time ever, we actually have over $10,000 in the bank, which is huge for us because we were always like begging and borrowing, stealing, making sure that we have enough to just cover that accountant, the AWS bill, the Zoom bill. And so it's nice to not get to that last little bit. So every $20 a week, so $80 a month. Hopefully with the shorts, those will pick up because you never know with shorts. That's the crazy thing is we just enabled monetization on those as well. And you never know. Like David Paskin's show generated one with 70,000 views and we didn't monetize that. So the money all went to YouTube. So all that we did by enabling monetization is say, hey, we want our little cut, which isn't much, but it helps, again, to pay the bills. And we opened up some TD trainer stations so other people can cut in on VMIX. So some of those funds will go towards these different TD trainer stations. So that's pretty cool. So I hope to do more things like that in the future, is give people the opportunity to use tools they would never use. So that's part of where our budget's going to go. David?
Out of curiosity, Guy, are the ads targeted, relevant, contextually aware to like what our topics are, or are you watching like a mayonnaise ad or something?
I don't know. We just turned it on a week ago. So this has been talked about for 6 months that we were going to turn it on. And I finally just said, we're turning it on. So I went back there and turned it on, and we're learning. If we need to turn it off, we'll turn it off. But it's only supposed to be during the records, not during live. So it should never interrupt a live. And we'll see how it goes. If it's too much of a pain or copyright things start to make it so that there's other challenges, then we'll stick to selling T-shirts and doing car washes.
I'd be interested to see if you can select the verticals that you want to advertise from.
Yeah, it's mostly auto-generated based off of viewer habits, so it's all individualized. And if you have a login enabled on your machine while you're watching, it's going to target you no matter what. And if it doesn't have enough history or enough bidding space for the ads to bid, then it'll come off of a pool of kind of like generally accepted high value turnover ads. So it's not like you're going to see office hours next to, some sort of weird wacko thing in the grocery store. It's going to be targeted to your audience, and your audience at office hours is tech-minded, usually very tech-minded and involved in media. And so you're going to see ads from big companies that involve themselves in tech, Google's, Microsoft's, Facebook's, all those things. And those are going to be expected when you're watching content for free.
Every nickel counts.
Mine all start with ask your doctor if office hours is for you.
That's right.
Part C, Medicaid Part C.
We don't have the little end screen with all the fast talking, so we're good. We're safe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
4 pages of disclaimers.
I think it works best that we don't have any any hand in what ads are shown, because we don't want to be responsible for that anyway, right? So, and from YouTube's point of view, it'll be targeting towards the user specifically, not necessarily about show content and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, see how it goes and give us feedback on what you think of it as you're watching it, or just pay for YouTube Premium, because you probably won't regret that. I figure I'm on YouTube every day, and so it's just I use YouTube more than any other streaming service. You know, like
I made a little
so
dashboard to pull in our stats. And 34.57% of our audience that watches office hours is a YouTube Premium subscriber. So
and I would vouch that 34.57% of our audience values their mental health and is willing to pay the money for premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would also say, Grant and Guy, that Google for Nonprofits also does let you not target the ads, but you can say what to stay away from.
Yeah, you got some blacklist options.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll close it out by saying 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Dentine for people who chew gum.
There you go.
It's good to know. That's a new sponsor, is it? I think what is important for everyone to know as well.
How many techs prefer Brady labelers over the other brand? A name you can trust. Brady.
You know, Office Hours is officehours.global is a non-profit, and it won't change. The fact that we could generate some income from ads won't change our content, and won't change the fact that we won't then start thinking, oh, we need to post this content because it'll generate more ads. That won't be the point. You know, we're serving the community, and that's the point. You know, and so it's just an added bonus if we can pay some bills with some money from YouTube. Why not? All right, next question.
Yes, we should have one of those little disclaimers at the bottom that says professional technical director on closed network. Do not attempt. Yeah. Next question comes in from Jeremy in Massachusetts. Says, contemplating a move from OBS to VMIX, currently using a Blackmagic Atem Extreme to bring in 5 to 7 cameras. How does VMIX work with a switcher? Is there a better way to bring the cameras in if I move to VMIX? Thank you.
Good question. David?
Well, Jeremy, if I were to do this, I would consider, instead of using the switcher upstream of VMIX, put a capture card in with multiple taps, like a Blackmagic, what is it? The
Decklink?
The Decklink Extreme 2 Duo, whatever the one is, that's like 8 taps in, if you're dealing with a desktop computer. And that way, because VMIX is a switcher in and of itself, ultimately. So you get it all done in software that way, is my thought.
Mm-hmm. Zach?
Yeah, I would say that you're replicating functionality by doing that, and that you'd be needing to purchase a hardware solution, like David said, to bring those sources into the machine anyways. And so in that position, I would say just ditch the ATEM, because you're just replicating all the functionality at that point, unless you have specific needs for that hardware. From my experience, there's really been no need to couple them together unless you have 2 different workflows that have to merge together for some reason. And in very interesting scenarios where you're contributing maybe as a submix of something else, I can see a scenario where that would work. But if you're going to be switching your actual switching duties into a VMIX workflow, I would suggest looking at, bringing those sources directly into VMIX.
Guy?
Yeah, I see a lot of people that do this because we run this ATEM Facebook group that has almost 70,000 people in it now. So they'll use VMIX as their either encoder or for their graphics package. So they still want the ATEM for the push button control and for the ingest. But like David was saying, if you want to use VMIX and have an input with a capture card. So like me, I have a quad, not in this machine, but I have a quad where I would just the quad 2 is 8 inputs, so I would just say add input camera and then select that source. Otherwise, NDI converters are another way to go, where you can say HDMI to NDI, and then you could suck NDI inputs in. It just depends on your workflow and what are your inputs and how fast they need to be. If you need them to be timed, do you need gen lock and things like that as to which card you want to get. AJ makes some great ones. Bluefish makes some great cards. So it just depends on if you're doing 4K as well. Like in Atem Extreme, you're limited by HD resolutions. A lot of people will go to VMIX just because the road to 4K is so much less expensive. And the HEVC output is for compression. It's a very nice encoder with the presets.
Yeah. Zach? Oh, Justin, sorry.
Yeah, so part of the question just asked how to get it into VMIX, and it works the same way as OBS. It comes in as a webcam, and with 5 to 7 cameras, there's not a lot left in the Atem to pull other things in. And I know I've run this a lot of times into an OBS or a VMIX solution when I need more graphics pieces and I'm out of inputs and I'm truly just using the Atem as nothing more than capture cards. If you can afford the solutions that they talked about out of bringing in each one on an individual camera feed into VMIX, definitely better. But if you're stuck with the Atem, it just hooks up like a webcam and you still switch on the Atem to whatever camera you want and then use that one camera feed inside of VMIX.
Zach?
Yeah, I would just say that, again, going back to the idea that you're bringing the switcher into the computer, if you're using the webcam USB source, you're also going to be competing with the color changes that are inherently flawed in the Blackmagic output of the UVC output. So I would say just be cautious. If you have the ability and the luxury to test first, do that. But if you're going to be doing a submix into VMIX, then I would say invest in some quality HDMI capture devices.
Yeah, I think there's been some great discussion on that. I do think that it's somewhat having a foot in both camps with what you're doing there, and so it could be, as Guy said, that you're just adding some graphics and you're doing the streaming from the computer, and that's what OBS was doing, and so now you're moving to VMIX. I would question whether you could do more in hardware, and my tendency, given that you've already got the Atem, would be to bring graphics back into the Atem, and you can potentially do streaming, from the Atem as well. It could be that you're leaning then on the hardware that you already have, rather than having to buy more hardware to be able to then go into a software switch. So, but these are two different worlds, and there's lots of people in different camps because really, any day of the week on office hours, we could talk about hardware versus software versus cloud, for doing events. And so it can be difficult to be able to decide on that. And so given that you already have the Atem hardware, I'd be leaning more into hardware, but because at some point you're actually becoming hybrid, where you're somewhere between hardware and software, and get us going on hybrid. We can talk about hybrid in general, that it's a compromise on both sides, right? And so I think one is better than the other. But I like John was saying in the chat too, if you change your switcher, evaluate your pipeline, so the whole pipeline, what is ideal for the whole situation. So I've had great success with Atem's, just an Atem hardware flow that I really like. But others have also said VMIX, can be great too. So I don't love the idea. Yep.
Grant, I do think one of the things that may be happening too with 7 cameras, you're kind of butting up against in the Atem Extreme running out of inputs. One port left doesn't give you a lot of room for graphics, and having only one input that you're constantly having to pull something new into that graphics is really tough as an operator to make sure that you get the right graphic in there. And I've tried to run shows where I've got multiple things that really, if I show the wrong thing, really does impact the show, and the keying doesn't work right. like there's a lot of extra work when you only have one input left. So like you might be at the limit of the Atem Extreme and needing something with more inputs if you stay on the hardware side.
Yeah, that's true. Peter, last comment.
So I'll follow on to Justin's. I mean, that's the reason I have a 2ME sitting on my desk, right? But I also have the DeckLink quad card in my Mac Pro, and that feeds Zoom ISO or takes Zoom ISO outputs into my 2ME. And I have the Duo card in the Mac Pro, which is what we're using right now. My camera feeds the 2ME, feeds Zoom. But I'm not coming in through the USB port. I'm actually coming in from one of the outputs on the 2ME into the DeckLink card.
Mm. Yep. Good call. All right. Next question.
Next question comes in from down in Wellington, New Zealand. Ian Monash wants to know, what is the technology stack and resolution for today's show? Do we have a resolution?
Go.
Resolution for the output is 3840 by 2160, and you can see it live on Stats for Nerds. If you go out to the broadcast and right-click and pull up that little Stats for Nerds, you'll see it. And this is what the interface looks like of mimolive. So this is the extra hours interface that the TD is cutting on. They're looking at and you can see this inside of after hours. If you go in there, you could pin these and you can actually look and see what the TD is seeing, except for you don't see his interface, which is this one here. And this is what we've developed. And that machine just happens to be here, and this is what the machine looks like. It's not in this box anymore. This is the box that it came.
I thought you were going to lift it up. You know, like, oops, all the cables fell out. Yeah. Don't touch it, guy.
That would be a bummer. Yeah, I'll leave it sitting right where it's sitting. But yeah, so it's mimolive running in the cloud, which is this cloud, because I have a huge internet pipe here that we're getting 8,500 kilobits or megabits per second. So that's it's a 10 gig connection, but after all the stuff overhead, it comes in at about 8,000. So we can handle a lot of them Zoom ISO inputs more so than what we're doing. We could do the 49 by 49 by 49 by 49 by 49 a few times over.
Just keep going.
Yeah, so we're ready. We just need more firepower. So as soon as an M5 comes out in the Mac Studio line, Oliver said he's going to ship one over. So I keep checking the mail, but it's not in there. One of these days it'll come.
Well, and it's a good reminder that if you want to see more of what's going on, then jump into After Hours and you can sort of follow along and see how the show is being switched. And also, Ian, if you want to know even more, then you could volunteer to help. And so you could actually learn, you can shadow some of the different roles and learn how people are doing that in the back end, and then potentially start switching and doing some of those roles directly. So we're always looking for people to learn and to help out. So officehours.global/volunteer, something like that.
That's correct.
Sure.
And also we are shadow cutting today with VMIX, and I do see some Zoom ISO V3s in here. So when you do volunteer and you get interested, you can go ahead and bring in your own stuff and play in this without, as long as you're not going to accidentally mute the host or affect the show in any way. So we do have some guardrails we have in place. We don't just let anybody come in and start adjusting everything. But yeah, it's cool to know that Cloudflex is working. Taylor's shadow cutting the show as we speak.
So good. All right, next question.
Sorry. All right. Next question comes in from Peter Belbin in Houston, Texas. He says, I've been watching the Pitt. I've been watching the Pitt. Look over there in the Pitt. Have not been enjoying the audio, however. Anyone know what's up with the audio? Sometimes it sounds muffled and sometimes heavily gated, sounding sometimes distorted. Same on the web and on set-top boxes. Ideas.
Courtney, you know a little bit about motion picture audio.
Sorry, getting a call there, interrupting my. But yeah, I checked to see if they were perhaps shooting in a different location. And no, they're still shooting on, I think, stage 15 at Warner Brothers Studios, right over the hill. And that was the same, basically, I think the same stage we shot ER on, and I worked on that show. So it's really well isolated, so it's not very echoey. And I did notice that a lot of people on Reddit are complaining about the sound in season 2, that it sounds either muffled or it sounds like the actors have lisps. That's what some people says. I'm not sure if perhaps they are handling it differently in post-production and gating it for some reason. Also, some people complained of echoey sounds. Now, they do shoot exteriors in Pittsburgh at the hospital, but that's usually just ambulance arrivals and exteriors. And I think all the interiors are shot on sets at Warner Brothers. So maybe they started gating the sound. Maybe they have... and on a lot of medical shows, they have a lot of equipment there that makes noise because they use a lot of real medical equipment a lot of times on the sets, and sometimes because they have the little machine that goes beep,
Beep, beep.
and yeah, ding, and you can't necessarily mute the fans in them, although a lot of them that have been prepared for motion picture work are specially modified to have the fans removed. But sometimes it can get kind of noisy, so they may be noise gating it somewhat to hold it down, and or maybe they've gone to a new method of recording so that they're have all the mics open and are just gating it in post. So,
the post processing, and I've noticed a few shows now where the dialogue is really low, and perhaps it's in the down mix, but even I just saw at the cinema, of course in full Dolby surround. I saw the what's that?
Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, Hail Mary. Thank you. Yeah, and there was a couple of moments there where the dialogue was too low, and it was just, and so. The center speaker, I think, was probably right, and maybe the surrounds were a little bit too hot, something like that.
Maybe they buried the lavalier on Rocky, that time. Under
That's right.
a layer of rock.
Closer to the mouth.
Horrible thing. Closer to what mouth?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Zach?
Yeah, so one of the things that can also happen is, I believe this is a HBO Max show, correct? And HBO has had a sort of history with their encoding ladders. And I know there's been a lot of complaints about that. And when you're talking about a show that may possibly be relying on a lot of that mixing on multiple channels, and when you jump ladders on your connection, you might not be getting the correct one that you were expecting, right? And so if it's super low quality, you may not be getting the center channel, or it may be muffled or low bit rate or whatever. And so I would suggest maybe check your connection, check a different location. And I know that sounds stupid. It's kind of like the tech support saying, did you restart it yet? But the bit rate ladder is super important to your experience. And if it's not nailing it exactly right, you're not going to have a good sound.
This is one of those examples of Peter, you consider who's asking the question. I mean, Peter could probably answer this question better himself, but there's some good suggestions there. Courtney, last comment.
Yeah, the other thing is sometimes when I notice things like this happen where the dialogue is muffled or low, or the music is overwhelming it, or the sound effects are overwhelming it, I take a look at my encoder and what type of sound system I'm running it through, and I have a 5.1 or a 7.1 system hooked up to my TV, but I don't listen to it. I listen to it in the sound bar all the time, which is 2.1. So if you have it configured for 7.1 and you're not playing it back on 7.1, you could be losing that center channel. So the decoder may be selecting that stream that's 7.1, and you don't have the hardware to decode it. So go in and make sure you set the stream to PCM stereo, and it may sound better. Your center channel may come back if that is possibly the problem with the audio.
Yeah, and Tommy was just saying, I find myself using closed captions of late for all of this poor audio, and people are talking about that a lot. That having closed captions, it's a nice little thing on Apple TV when you go back, it turns on the closed captions for 30 seconds, or so. I like that little feature. So what did they say? You can go back and check. Next question.
Next one comes in from Douglas Carmichael. Douglas asked, when you purchase a Zoom enhanced media license, can you host a meeting for others that don't have enhanced media and still pull full resolution feeds from the members of the meeting?
That's a nuanced question, Peter.
Short answer is yes, because the media license follows the host.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in some accounts that have two, you could actually run two meetings at the same time with enhanced media, and then you can pull, depending on how many people you have in there, you could keep pulling. And if you have other systems, you could keep pulling as well. So even if, I believe, maybe Justin could answer this, but in the high bandwidth mode, you max out on one machine at 100 megabit. You jump over to another machine, another 100 megabit. Yeah. So if you had a huge panel and you wanted 1080p 12 megabit feeds, you could just keep going.
And the key thing to remember there is the nuance. There is a nuance there. You're not necessarily pulling pulling full resolution for what the participant is able to send. It will then upscale it if you tell it to.
And the other nuance to this as well is, I saw in their documentation that it is, once you get up more than 100 people in the meeting, it actually drops back down to the standard Zoom media. Still keeps your 100 megabit bandwidth limit, but it drops back down from the enhanced media to the standard one once you get over 100 people. And once you get over 1,000 in the meeting, I think the enhanced media or the bandwidth one goes back down. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It all goes black and white at 1,000 people. It's just like, and there's a bit of snow that comes in.
That's fake film grain that comes through. Yeah,
quick adjust the revenue.
It rolls.
It goes to audio only.
It'll go to see you see me resolution.
Yeah, exactly. Douglas, I read your question. It did slightly differently in that I thought you were saying if I had it and I didn't want to use it on a meeting that I'm hosting, can I do that? And I imagine that you can kind of disable it from, just turn it off. Yeah. But yeah. And nice to have Muddy in the chat. It's just saying about how only applies if it's enabled for the account that scheduled the Zoom meeting. Joining someone else's meeting won't enable enhanced media at all. Yep. So it's all about who scheduled the meeting, essentially, who's hosting it. Good one. Next question.
Next one comes in from Elkhart, Indiana. Paul Kovacs asked, what are the panel's opinions on some good Thunderbolt 5 hubs for a MacBook Pro, both Homebase options and travel options?
David.
Well, hubs versus docks is the big delineator, I think. Hubs are going to share bandwidth across the one pipe going in. The dock usually will offer you more bandwidth in and out of your device. I actually leveraged one of those OWC, I forget the model off the top of my head, but OWC has been solid. CalDigit, solid. And I forget if... there's a couple others that off the top of my head I can't recall, but docks over hubs any day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've used Pluggable. Pluggable has a Thunderbolt 4 dock that I've got 6 of, I think now, and so I've kind of doubled down on it because there was a couple of features on it. One was that it had dual HDMI and dual DisplayPort out, which was really nice, as well as a 2.5 gig Ethernet, and so they're just a good unit, as well as 100-watt charging. To David's point about it being a dock, often power is also often a thing that's included rather than a dock that might be just kind of like a splitter in a way, whereas a dock is a bit more involved. Now that's Thunderbolt 4. I mean, Thunderbolt 5 obviously gives a whole bunch more bandwidth, but the pricing on the docks is up there. I see that Anker has a new one as well, a Thunderbolt 5 dock, which is pretty good. But yeah, it was big money to get those, and so it depends on what the setup is. But the thing that I loved about the pluggable one is sometimes like it's worth, and I actually did the last time I bought laptops, I took my dock into the store and said, before I buy this laptop, I want to check that it works with this dock. And sure enough, this Lenovo didn't, and this Lenovo did. And I think, slightly different graphics cards and things like that. As far as it was all, for me, it was all about the display out and having 2 display outs that would go off of the laptop. And so that's a big advantage for me in these little racks that we've got. We can use a Windows machine and a Mac on any one of these multiple docks. And so I'm a big fan of docks. But yeah, and the pluggable one was one. A CloudDigit I've used as well. But similarly, like high pricing. And even the pluggable one has kind of almost doubled in price since I bought it. So it's it's nuts the way that the pricing are now. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, so I have right over here a CloudDigit dock. It's a Thunderbolt 3 or 4. I don't remember. It's an older one. But my experience with Thunderbolt docks and hubs in general is if it doesn't come with a power brick, don't get it, because they're unreliable at that point, and they don't necessarily support all the PCI Express lanes if it doesn't have full power to them. So if you're going to be looking for a dock or a dongle or whatever, make sure that it's powered, because you're just not going to have that reliability if you don't have it. And since you didn't actually give us a price range, this is the current CloudDigit TS5 Plus Thunderbolt 5 dock, and it has all the ports. It has everything you want for $500. But when you are looking at ports, one thing that I had to run into a reality check was I actually need HDMI. Like, this only has a display port, and most Thunderbolt docks will have display port, and it's because it's a higher bandwidth, higher quality port. It's great. But unless you're willing, if your workflow supports it, then that's awesome. Mine doesn't, and so I've had to kind of shy away from these docks because of that, or just go to the dongle route, right? The other catch is when you're looking at docks and dongles and things like that, if they don't have this little lightning bolt icon next to them, they're not full Thunderbolt. And there's some brands out there that'll try to sell you a cheaper one that doesn't have that Thunderbolt, and they'll sell it as a Thunderbolt dock because the ingest of that dock, or I guess the output of that dock, is Thunderbolt, but none of the ports are on the actual dock. So you're paying a premium for a dock that's Thunderbolt because it says Thunderbolt, but you're not getting the actual throughput of Thunderbolt. So make sure that your needs are being shown exactly the way you want them on that feature list.
Yeah, it's normally reflected in the price, right? Like, there's lots of these USB-C that are Thunderbolt compatible. It's like that's not what I'm looking for, and the price will be really good. You'll be like, wow, this is a really cheap price. As soon as it goes to Thunderbolt, it doubles or triples sometimes in price. You're talking, Zach, but I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of these will also not give you the full bandwidth. So your Thunderbolt may say it's like an 80 gigabit port, but what you'll notice is that the USB ports are USB 2, or they're USB 3.0, not 3.1 or 3.2. There's a lot of these little gotchas that they go through to save money on the chipsets that they're using, including the Ethernet jack. So if you're using this dock for anything like Dante or NDI, that can make a huge impact into the quality of your experience. Dropped packets, incompatibilities, things like that. And so really investigate, if you're going to be spending $600 or $500 or $400 on a dock, make sure you're getting exactly what you need.
Yep, it's a good point. And Mickey was just saying too that not all USB-C ports carry DisplayPort, which is true. In the CloudDigit, I have looped through, like there's a Thunderbolt loop out, and I often will plug a USB-C to HDMI in that, and that gives me kind of an extra HDMI, and I can do the display port as well. So often it's about portability. Often with these things, it's just like I want to be able to sit down, plug in one cable, and everything just starts firing up. And so by having that USB-C to HDMI into the Thunderbolt port actually passes through quite well. That's another way of doing it. All right, next question.
Next one comes in from Douglas Carmichael once again. Could an LLM-backed tool be useful for generating quotes and business material like design documents for clients based on raw data?
Courtney?
Why, yes, there isn't anything that AI can't do. I found, one of the best tools for doing this kind of stuff based on data that you have, and you want to limit it to the scope of the data, and you want it to be accurate and not make things up and hallucinate. Notebook LM from Google. If you just go to notebooklm.google.com, and all you need is a Google account, and you create notebooks. There are some that are canned on here. See, I created one for the Rodecaster Pro user guide, etc. And once you drag your data in there, you can create a new notebook just by clicking the Create New. And not only that, you just drag your files that you want to have it, the data files that you want to use into this area right here. It says drag your files. And then you just type queries of it. And in the studio, which is this side panel over here, once you drag a bunch of files in there, you have the ability to create a video, create an audio podcast from that data. I dragged my operation manual for some software that I wrote into there and said, create an audio podcast. It creates a 2-person podcast where they talk back and forth about my product and how great it is and how you do certain things. And all I did was drop the operator's manual in there. So it does a lot of those things. You can create infographics and a variety of different tools that can be then distributed to clients, and it's based totally on the scope of the files that you drag into that notebook. And it saves your notebooks, so you can come back to them at any time and create new stuff just by typing some queries in there. So look into, and it's free for Google account holders. So, and if you subscribe and pay money to Google for, more storage and things, it's even better.
Good one. Peter.
So, this is not a new concept. In reality, I remember 40 years ago in the IBM company, they weren't called AI tools, but we had tools that could read the assembler code for our operating system and start to generate manuals from it so that then we'd have to let the tech writers loose to fix the English, but it would generate manuals and diagrams, logic diagrams, quite automatically. It's quite nice. And when you have a 2 million line operating system, you want something to automate.
Yeah. Guy.
Yeah, I got carried away and made a full-blown app that runs on a machine using Claude code. One of the things for simple stuff, though, that you should look at, now it'll be my pick of the week, or what do we call them? Content pick, not pick of the week. Is inside of Claude, if you have a Mac and you have the app, I don't know if this is getting cut off. Here at the very top, there's this little word here that says chat, cowork, and code. When you hit cowork, you can work inside of a project. So you can, if you're on a Mac, you can press this little plus sign and make a directory, and then you could put those files in there. So if you have some raw data, you could tell it, hey, the raw data is in here. Generate some quotes, generate something where I can add margin. So if I want to say a quote plus 20%, but I want the client to only see the finished product, not the system that I use in the back end. So you could generate all that stuff just with cowork. So, and then it stays on your hard drive. It doesn't run out of context because it's on your hard drive. So, and I'm going to put a video to this that really will help you out. Because I was watching it this week and I even learned a few things that I didn't know about. So I'll put a link when it's my turn.
Look at you, Guy. You keep jumping from from Claude to OpenAI, from Codex and stuff.
There's some things.
Have you picked one yet?
I can't let go. Yeah, I got suckered back into the $200 a month plan too because I ran out. I was like, dang it! Thought I'd get away this month with only spending $100. Yeah.
It's like you're paying $400 now because you've given $200.
No, 220, so 220.
Okay.
But man, if you saw what my payroll used to be, I feel like this is a bargain. Having a developer that's cranking out some of the stuff, I'm amazed. $200. It's easy.
I know. I think the same thing. Yeah. Next question.
Next one comes in from James Wabazan. Bonjour et comment allez-vous? Je suis mimolive. My French is horrible. Sorry, I was born in Texas. But, how are you? I'm using mimolive. How about you?
Very good. Nice to have you here. And bonjour. We have some support for being multilingual. But we could do better in that. And so help us along that way. We can happy to take any questions or comments. But yeah, mimolive is what's running this show tonight. And we're very appreciative to how mimolive works. It's really quite rock solid and working well with the integration with Zoom, being able to pull out the feeds and things. We are going to push it a little harder. We're doing some tests, but we want to do the enhanced media and start really pushing it and see if we can get 60 frames working and higher bandwidth and see how that goes with up to 8 people or something. That'll be really fun. So we'll see how it goes. But interested to hear your experience as well. So nice to have you here. Last question.
Last one comes in from Douglas Carmichael. Once again, how do you access the TD trainer stations?
Go.
Yeah, so Grant knows I've had this dream for a long time because I talked to him about trying to get some footage to be able to make this work, and why not just use the live shows as our footage? So basically, if you go to the officehours.global/volunteer, you can volunteer to become a TD, and it's going to be a process. Don't expect to just jump in the driver's seat right away. But once we get everything set up and we figure out how many people and how many stations we need, because it does cost a few bucks to fire these things up. So we got to make sure we don't get out of hand and say, hey, we're going to fire up 10 stations, and now at $20 a show, $10 to $20 a show, it could rack up by the end of the month to be a lot of money. So we got to be careful about how many, but just being able to watch and view. We are putting these things into after hours so you could kind of get a taste of it, but we're not doing the VMIX one, which that's the one that you probably want to play with. And those are the ones that we can easily duplicate, because using Cloudflex, it's just a matter of add. It's so simple in the PC world with AWS, but on the Mac side, we actually have to have the physical machines, or if there was enough demand, maybe we would just go rent a $100 machine over in Mac Stadium. But for now, it's going to be VMIX. So and actually maybe we're still in discussions with VisVector, and then maybe even TriCaster. Like TriCaster S is an 8-input $100 a month version. So we're exploring that as an option. If there's enough demand, I'm cool with it. And if we have the money, of course. So where else in the world could you go cut a live show on a TriCaster for free? I mean, this is going to be cool if we could get it all working. It's a dream. Like I said, I even bought the domain name 2 years ago for showcutter.com. I had this dream of making it all work. So it'd be cool to make it just a nonprofit and let people play.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So now we're on to our content recommendations. And Zach, what's yours?
Yeah. So in the spirit of past builds that we've done with trying to do Zoom at shows and building little pieces of cell phone and cameras and screens and microphones and all that stuff. And because I felt bad that Grant was the only Aussie on the show today, I did pick Andrew Locke's Gaffer and Gear video he just put this out the other day, on his remote CRMX mixers. They're basically like a DMX, but it's a different protocol. It can control all your universes and all your studio lights and all your different stuff. But he goes through building out these units and what's worked for him, not just like an idea for a video, but like he uses this on jobs, right? Like this is an actual day-to-day thing for him. So it's an iPad type scenario with handles and cages. It has the wireless transmitters, V mounts. It has stand baby pin receptors on it. It has all the things you would ever want. And he goes through the entire builds. He goes through all the products. If I scrub through here, you'll see that he points out all the different parts and components and what's worked for him and what hasn't. And he says that he's gotten this to a point where it's just completely reliable in his day-to-day workflow. And yeah, super cool. And if you're in that kind of a work environment where you do need to control these studio lights and be mobile, and or if you're a solo op that's doing this and you're having to adjust lights and change values and kind of mix the show on your own, having these types of components in the back of your pocket to pull out and utilize on a day-to-day basis is a huge win.
Nice one. I just found it, so I'll pop it in the chat as well for people. So good one. Guy, what's yours?
Yeah, as I was talking about this one here, it's called, the title is not a very good title. It says Claude just killed all note-taking apps. But really what it comes down to is what I was showing you before. Don't be afraid of terminal if you're on a Mac. This guy actually walks you through, like it's not that hard. It's to open up and install Claude, and then he shows how to set up a directory and work from that directory. So if you've ever ran out of context, meaning like you've used ChatGPT and it was just like, you've reached the end of this session limit, this is where for $20 a month to have Claude, and so you see code on the right side and you see your Finder on the left side. And this is just a terminal window. And this guy, I've never seen somebody make it so simple to understand. So this is going to be my pick as to how he sets up not only his Claude code, but also some teams, some agents. So he has agents that do certain things that are more like thinking. There's thinking like more like a company style, where you have like a marketing person and you have activity that's lower end, so you don't have to pay for the workers to be using up your Opus or your higher end thinking tokens. So watch this video. It's so good. That's my content pick.
Good one. Yeah. Courtney.
Well, I'm going to dip back into the channel Corridor Crew, which had just dropped a very interesting video. If you're into visual effects or Unreal Engine or anything like that, this one's about Gaussian splats, which is basically a complex version of photogrammetry that lets you do things like you're seeing here, create bullet time in real time and do a lot of strange things because the background isn't really real there. It is created using Gaussian splats. And this video goes into how he created all these environments and how you can do the same thing with just your phone and the right kind of software. And of course, it helps to have, an array of cameras that do, volumetric video. But hey, if you have the money, you can do something like that. So that's my recommendation. Gaussian Splats, Corridor Crew. They have a lot of interesting videos for the YouTuber and for professional visual effects artists.
Nice one. Peter, what's yours?
So I'm going to go back in history for those of you. We all know about Alan Turing and his work on early computers and things like that. There was another guy involved, and they both worked in a place called Hut 6. And this other guy, and I always get his name confused, Gordon Welchman, he basically was the guy who figured out how to parallelize the machines that broke the Enigma code. So, and then he went on to work for the NSA here in the US and figured out the idea of tracking metadata long before it was called metadata.
Nice. Good one.
So there's both a Smithsonian Channel series on it, and there's a nice book on the subject as well.
Okay. David.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the analog days of, I've always been interested in video synthesis, and there's this guy, another Dave. His name is Dave Blair. I'm speeding this up, but it's this fractal machine generator that he's built, and he's upped it to a 4K rig, and he just sits there and makes all these cool fractal feedback loops. I think he's using some Atem hardware in there. Dave Blair on YouTube. So that's the kind of stuff that he builds. It's video art, and it's nutty. I just love stuff like that.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, sorry for the fast motion. Oh wait, there it is. And yeah, I don't even know what kind of cameras he's rocking, but if I had the kind of room that he has in his house in my little apartment, I'd probably be doing something like that.
Nice. All right, Justin, have you got something?
I sure do. I've actually been nerding out a whole bunch on Dallas Taylor's YouTube channel. So he's got behind the scenes of like how they made Stranger Things sound terrifying. And I'm not into sound design at all. I'm fascinated by it. And that video was like a masterclass in sound design and how they layered everything to get the effects, and even talking about things that they didn't do that if they had done them would have actually squashed a bunch of sounds, and why they produced it. And so there's that video. There's also behind the scenes of how the Wicked on Broadway is produced. There's an Olympics audio that talks about producing in the States when everything's going on overseas. So lots and lots of cool stuff on Dallas Taylor's YouTube channel.
Yep, very good one. Nice one. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We got to the end. Seems like the CD time of 74 minutes is about where we sit. We can't get past it. So we've had to extend to the 80-minute version of the CD for tonight.
Well, with Carl's on, his content.
That's right. Goes to DVD. Goes to a DVD.
Extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a 9 gigabit DVD.
You got to burn a DVD for that one. We'll get Carl back on soon. The Tlaloc traversal, 9,000 miles, 15 kilometers. That doesn't sound like many. 73 million bananas for scale. I don't know. That didn't sound like very many. Maybe it's because I spent a whole bunch of time talking about stuff that wasn't a question. Big thank you to Alan, Robert, Taylor and Peter that were making all things happen in the background there. And if you're watching right now, then jump into After Hours with us and we can have a little post-show debrief. Why not? Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
What?
Thanks, panelists.
Maybe we should send Dallas Taylor over to the set of The Pitt and find out what the heck is going on.
That's right, yeah. What's going on? We've heard the audio is The Pitt.
Have him as a guest. Can't you just call him up, Grant, and just be like, do you know who I am? All the way from Adelaide. Jump on Extra Hours. That'd be cool to have
That's
him.
right. Would be. There's a few people
I'm
like
sure
that.
somebody in the community knows somebody that knows somebody that